Hey, Jim. Well, today I'm back at it with this crazy $500 Ford F-250. 5.4, 3-valve, much beloved engine, yes. I've already done quite a few supposedly difficult things to this truck recently. Let's see, I just put a new fuel pump in. I removed this rusty bed. Yeah. A lot of this stuff is just basically gone. And I put in a new, sorry about that. I put in a new starter, and that was supposed to be a hard job, and it really wasn't that bad. It didn't seem like to me. Anyway, today I'm going to do what is supposed to be a really nasty job, and that's the spark plugs. And of course, I'm going to put on new coils. So what I've done so far to prepare, besides light the place up pretty good, is I have disconnected my battery both sides. And now I'm looking at this, and there's a coil pack right there. And there are going to be 4 of them all the way back here. So I'm thinking I need to give myself a little better access. So first thing I'm going to do is go in here and pull out some easy stuff like this hose that's right over it. And on the other side, I'm going to pull out this whole channel here and just give myself a little more easy access first up. And you might have noticed that I have already unplugged the first plug from my powertrain control module. That's the brain for the whole darn truck. It's got these 3 big plugs in it, right there and right there. And they have a little thing on the bottom here that once it's plugged in, this gray thing snaps forward and it holds the whole plug in place. So in order to remove the plug, you got to reach up in there, grab this gray thing, and it's kind of hard to pull it back, but it'll eventually let go and pull back, and you have to pull it all the way, and you'll feel a definitive snap. It goes click, and then you can pull the plug out with no problem. So I'm going to pull all those plugs, the other 2, just to get them out of the way to give me some more access. So in here, I've done a new serpentine belt. I put in new, I think they're called VCT solenoids. I've cleaned the throttle body. What else did I do? Anyway, I'm pulling out stuff, as you can see. This hose right here, I'm going to pull out of the way. It just is a little green clip thing you got to push. Oops. My radiator hose is spilling. Apparently, what makes this job tricky is the spark plugs are way down in a little well, and when you try to bring them out, they are stuck in the head with carbon, and they are poorly designed, so they break off. Okay, so I'm going to push that little green tab thing. Okay, that's easy. Anyway, the spark plugs break off, and that's not good. We don't really want the spark plug, half of it still stuck in the head. So some people go at them with impact drivers and just knock them out before anything, the one that I'm aware of that seems best suited to my thinking and approach is that you break the spark plug loose, just like 1/8 of a turn. Just get it to turn initially just a little bit, and after I will have cleaned out the whole well to begin with, so blown it all out so there's not really any debris or anything, hopefully. And then once the spark plug is slightly loose, I'm going to spray a bunch of this down into the spark plug well, with the idea being that it will seep down past the threads and get down to where the carbon is actually sticking the rest of the plug to the head and loosen it up, and then take the plug and just barely turn it, eighth of a turn back. Just wiggle it a little tiny bit at a time to loosen it up, and that's after letting the this stuff soak. Some ideas are 20 minutes is enough, and some say the next day. So I'm gonna probably let it soak a little longer, just because I got time on my hands. Okay, I'm gonna keep moving hoses out of the way, and I'm gonna pull. I'm not sure which side I'm gonna start on, but I'm gonna pull out one of my the front coil, and I believe, if I recall correctly, it's only a 7mm bolt. So I've decided to start on number 1. That seems logical. And it is a 7mm, and I've already broken it loose. It did not seem very tight at all. And I am going to get some compressed air and blow out the debris that's down in that well around where the coil rubber boot goes in. So I'm going to go get some safety glasses and blow that crud out of there. That does not seem that bad. I mean, yeah, it's dirty, but I don't know. It doesn't say Motorcraft or anything on it, so I don't know. If I was to take a guess, I would say that this is not the original coil. Well, let's see about, I'm going to blow that whole port out again, and then I'm going to see about putting together an extension and see if I can break the spark plug loose. I got it to break loose. I used a big 1/2-inch breaker bar and very carefully, there's the hole right there, very carefully applied pressure until it turned about 1/8 of a turn or so, and it was fairly quiet about it, and it felt fairly smooth. And then I turned it the opposite direction, the tightening direction, just a tiny bit, and it did a creak. So I think we may have broken loose without breaking the plug so far. Now I'm going to fill that hole with my B12 Chem tool, carburetor choke throttle body cleaner. Okay. I came over here and decided to go for the easiest one on the driver's side, and that would of course be cylinder number 5 up front here. So I got it unplugged. I pulled out the coil, and the coil actually started to pull apart, and the top part came up. There was a little spring, so I stopped there, and I got some long pliers and reached in there and grabbed the rubber boot with the pliers and pulled it out, and it came out. I was able to get in there with my 9/16 after I blew everything out again, of course, keeping it as clean as I can. Used my 1/2-inch breaker bar on this one, and it broke loose pretty easy, surprisingly easy. And so now that one is soaking in chem tool as well. And I guess I'm just going to start working my way back on both sides and seeing if I can get them all broken loose and at least soaking before I call it a day here. Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you that while I was in here going for number 5, I realized that my expansion tank that is normally mounted up here was just going to be a giant pain in my neck. So I took 2 bolts out. I think they were 8mm, and then you have to kind of pick it up and wiggle it out, you can see kind of there's little hooks on it. So just wiggled it out, and then I put my hose back on, so it's a sealed system again, and I can set it down low here and nothing leaks out. If you don't put this hose back on there, it will start squirting. So now I've got a little better access. All right, I'm continuing to remove. I took out another hose from here that you might notice. Was the one that was attached right here, the PCV hose. So I'm taking out the coil bolts, and the further back you get in here, the harder it is to see. So I'm using my trusty extendo mirror here to look back there and actually see where the bolt is and see how to get in there. But I've gotten them all out except number 8 back there. I'm going to get him right now. I got him. I took out all 8 of my coils, and they weren't too terrible to get at. Like I said, the number 8 back there, it was hard to see the bolt, so I used a little mirror. And it turns out that this setup here was just about perfect. It's a 7mm deep socket, and it's a quarter drive, so then I have a 1/4 to 3/8 adapter, and then a stubby wiggle extension, and then a slightly bigger. And let me show you what the ultimate length is of it from end to end. So not counting the ratchet, from tip to tip, it is 6.5 inches, and that seemed to work really nicely. It got the end where the ratchet goes up just enough and still gave me clearance when I was in the back for the bolt to back all the way out and not drive my ratchet into the cowl underneath. So it seemed like a pretty good length. Now I've also cracked loose 2 more of the spark plugs. So now I have 1 and 2 loosened up and 5 and 6 loosened up. And so far it's gone pretty good. The next 2, when I loosened them up, I again just cracked them just a little bit and then creeped them back just a hair and then cracked them a little more until I have them at about a quarter of a turn, and now they're soaking in Chem Tool. So I'm going to go ahead and loosen the other 4 if I can. I have all 8 spark plugs loosened up about a quarter of a turn and then fed the old B12 Chem Tool into the opening. You know, and this is just a whole different approach. It's like if you come up to some spark plugs, some of these old guys that are easy to get to, and you say, "Hey, Sparky, I'd like to take you out." And they say, "Hell yeah, let's go." Yeah, it's not like that. When you're asked to take a spark plug out from this family of engines, you have to approach it differently. You say, "Hey, Sparky, I'd like to take you out." And just give it a little nudge and then give it a gift of Chem Tool. Then you wait a while and you come back and you say, "Hey, Sparky, you know, I'd still like to take you out." And you give it another little, little back and forth nudge. Give it another gift of Chem Tool. And eventually Sparky will come around. And if you go in here and you do it if you just say, "Sparky, you're coming out. I'm taking you out," and you go in with an impact, you're probably going to break some off and Sparky's going to screw you over. So everything's soaking, everything's loosened up, and we're going to have a crazy heat wave, I think, for the next couple days. So I'm going to come out here and I'm going to give them a little back and forth nudge here and there and replenish the Chem Tool supply in each of the spark plug ports. And even if it feels like it's ready to come out, I'm just going to take them out a little bit at a time. And yes, it's a pain in the neck to get my extension and my socket into the back too, especially on the passenger side. There's some hoses and stuff that... Anyway, it's a pain to do this over and over, but I really think it's the way to go. And I imagine the pain of trying to extract a broken plug using one of those extraction tools. So I don't mind the extra effort here. If it saves me from using one of those, I'm okay with that. So letting her soak, and we'll wait for the heat wave to pass. I got my first spark plug out. Look at that. I got it out of cylinder 5 here, and it's been soaking for probably, 3 days now, where I would back it out, come out here and back it out another quarter of a turn, and then tighten an eighth of a turn, back it out another quarter of a turn, and do that until I get it out maybe another half a turn or 3/4 of a turn, and then I would spray more of my chem tool in the hole, and you can see exactly what that does, because all that wet looking stuff, that's the carbon that was dissolved by the chem tool and allowed all of this, look at that, it's just like kind of like tar here, and it allowed all of this to rotate while removing the plug rather than sticking and making the plug break in two. So it runs down through here, down into here, and then loosens all this stuff up over time. That's what I'm trying to do. First one was a success. We'll see how it goes with the other 7. Okay, well, I think I can actually show you right where that buildup is that makes the plugs stick, that makes them break when you're trying to take them out. I have my little endoscope here. I got it on Amazon. Wasn't that expensive. I have the little camera already down in the hole, but I haven't actually gone past where the spark plug goes in yet. Let's see if I can get it to go in there. Okay, there you see it. This is just below where the threads are, and you can see all of that carbon buildup that has been softened by all of the chem tool I've been spraying in here, but that allowed that bottom barrel of the spark plug to twist out rather than seize up and separate from the upper part. So that's what we're softening. And then if we look further in, you can see some of that liquid down there in the bottom. So I'm going to put a hose in here and blow all this stuff out before I try to put in a new spark plug. Seven just came out for me, and you can see that liquefied carbon around there on the barrel. Looks pretty rusty too, actually. Well, maybe not. I know, we're not focusing. There we go. Certainly is worn out. Oh, play sad music. I had number 8 loose, and it wouldn't come up with the socket that has a little rubber thing in it to grab the spark plugs. So I used this magnet here and my long pliers to reach down and grab the tip and pull it up. That's what I got. Oh man. So the whole bottom half is stuck in number 8. Of course, it's the one all the way in the back. So that's what it looks like next to one that came out. So we can see that here the barrel over here was seized in the cylinder. So even though I had done the whole loosen up and spray thing, it's separated from the top piece here, and as this top piece came up, the barrel stayed where it was. The electrode came with it, So all that's really left in there is this barrel part, but that's pretty crappy. Well, now 6 is giving me a hard time, and I have looked in the hole with my endoscope, and 6, it's broken off because I can see where the threaded sleeve has slid up the ceramic part. Now I have grabbed the tip with a pair of pliers and given it a bit of a tug, and it doesn't move. So it feels like the ceramic might not be broken in 6 yet. So I have again filled the whole hole with B12 Chem Tool, and I'm going to let it soak and try to wiggle a little bit and see if I can get it to bring that whole lower barrel part out. Back in 8, I don't know, man. Am I supposed to... I don't know, I'm having some crazy thoughts about trying to do this without buying one of those fancy tools. Yeah. This is starting to look kind of grim. So far, I'm at 50%. Oh boy. It has been it's probably been about a week since that last clip. Since then, I did a video about my 650i and asking Hoovie from Hoovie's Garage, Tyler Hoover, if he wanted to maybe look into it for his manual transmission swap. And the car wizard, Hoovie's main mechanic guy, actually left a comment or two. It was great. I really enjoyed that. Anyway, back to this, and as it turned out, I ended up with 3 broken plugs. And I've got 2 different types of brakes. In 6 and 8, they broke off like this, where you've got a little bit of the porcelain still down inside the barrel, which is still stuck in the cylinder. And then in cylinder 1, it came out like this. So that means the entire rest of this is still stuck in there, even the tip here. Let me show you with the endoscope. So here we are looking down into number 1, and you can see the tip of the spark plug over there on the bottom right, and all of the porcelain is there, but you'll notice that the hex part of it is not there. It looks like you can see some corrosion around the bottom. And that's where just that guy came out. So the collar part came out, and the threads, the nut, not the porcelain. So what that brings us to is I ordered this on Amazon. It's a Lisle tool, and I got model 65700, which came with a special tool to extract the entire porcelain that I have stuck in number 1, and that would be the porcelain puller here. You could get the kit with just the pusher assembly and the extractor. They were probably 25 bucks cheaper, 20 bucks cheaper. And there were plenty of Chinese knockoffs, and I know I'm going to use Chinese knockoff parts when I go to put this back together, but I decided, since this is a pretty drastic problem, I mean, if I can't fix it with this tool, I'm going to have to really tear this thing apart, pull the heads off, all of that. So I decided to not get the Chinese knockoff, that I would just get the real deal. Let's have a look at this thing. All right. Oh, what do we got here? Turn your tool idea into money. They're already paying royalties to over 100 people. Well. Oh, that's funny. This is an actual application. Hey, wait a minute. I just made my own tool. My gas tank locking cap removal tool. Well, maybe I'm just going to have to see if they want to buy the design from me. Okay, so back to reality. So it looks like what I need to do is this is the extractor, and this little device here snaps over the top of the electrode, and then I will take this nut off. Once this is clicked in place, then I slip this down into the spark plug hole, and then I put a little washer, a little nylon washer on, and then the nut, and then slowly tighten this nut, and it will pull, hopefully, it will pull the entire rest of the porcelain and hopefully that tip piece out of the head. Let's see how it works. Okay, so here we can see my spark plug in the hole again. And the idea is to get this to snap on over the tip of that. Click! And then once it's on and I slide the collar over this, the collar will keep this closed and it should pull out whatever it pulls out, hopefully the whole thing. Of course, this is not going smoothly. I am trying to pop it on. It's down there. I've got the nut on it just to give me a little more surface area to push on. And I can't quite get it to snap over the end of the plug. So I've already had it out once and snapped it on and off of a plug I have out here a few times, hoping to loosen it up, but I still can't quite. I'm not strong enough to push it on and make it click into place. So maybe I'll pull it out and try to loosen it up some more. I was able to finally get it to click on. Yay. And then I reached in with some channel locks and held on to this big nut here and then unscrewed very slowly this puller, and it feels like it's loose. So let's see what we've got here. Oh, yeah. Oh, not that yay. Okay, so we got the entire porcelain out, but it looks like the metal sleeve is still in there. Damn it. Yes, you can see here where the whole porcelain part came out, but this metal piece is still in there. Okay, so let's move on. But at least we got all the porcelain out. So now we don't have to press the porcelain down in like we will the other two. Let's see if we can get that last metal piece out and at least only have 2 cylinders bad instead of 3. Okay, you can see I still have my little liner tube in the spark plug socket. And the next step is going to be to put this little jewel in. And you'll notice that on the end here, which is hardened steel, which is why you get the real tool and not the knockoff, because it would really, really suck if you went through all this and then your tool broke off in your broken socket or broken spark plug. Anyway, this is a reverse thread, and I measured the thread and I discovered that it takes 4 full revolutions to go from the very start here all the way to where you're bottomed out. So I'm going to say, just so I know where I'm at when I'm installing this and twisting it into the part I want to extract, I want to get as much of the meat of this into it as possible. So I'm going to say, once it starts biting in, I'm going to measure right where I am, and I've got to get at least 3 full revolutions, hopefully, and that will get enough of it into the meat of that collar, and then we should be able to hopefully pull it out. And this nut should come off, and there should be a little nylon washer between this reverse threaded nut and my little collar thing in there, just to help with the wear factor, I think. Okay, so let's see what we can do. Okay, there it is. I have reverse threaded it in about 3¼ rotations. So I suspect I have fairly good thread penetration. So now I'm going to put on the nylon washer, my reverse threaded nut, and see if I can actually extract the part. Okay, here we go. It seemed to go pretty easy. Come on, please be there. Oh yeah! Woohoo! There it is. Hooray! Wow! It did work. Excellent! Okay, 1 down, 2 to go. I have a newfound confidence. Thank you very much. Woohoo! So the next 2 are going to be a little bit different. This is the one that we just got because the porcelain is all still in one intact piece. So the next 2 that we have are like this one, where the bottom part of the porcelain, get out of the way, bro. So the bottom part of the porcelain here, where it's all dark and scorched here, that part has broken off inside the metal piece, like we just extracted from this one's hole, number 1. So instead of just being this in there, we have this and the broken off porcelain. So the next step in our next 2 is going to be to use this device, and it screws in where the spark plug goes. So you can screw it in just like a regular spark plug. You will have it completely backed out where this pin is all the way up inside the body of the device. And then it has a pre-measured amount of travel, and you just tighten it up, and it pushes that porcelain piece that's broken off here, it pushes it down into this metal piece, and hopefully it doesn't actually break off and fall into the cylinder. Not a great huge deal if it does. You can always retrieve it, clean it, vacuum it, whatever. But usually, from what I've seen, these contain most of the porcelain inside of this metal collar. It just pushes it down far enough to get the 3½ or 4 turns that you need to extract it properly. So let's give that a try. All right, it's bottomed out in the spark plug hole, threaded in all the way, and now I'm going to switch over and put a socket on the bolt here, and I'm going to drive it all the way home. There's no messing around here. You want it to go all the way in till it bottoms out, and it's already preset for the depth it needs, so push it all the way. It felt like it got there a couple times. See it down right there, and if it feels like it gets there, then pull your socket off and look and make sure that that bolt is bottomed all the way out, like it is right here. A couple times it felt like it was starting to bottom out, and I looked and there was still even like a 1/4 of an inch to go. So just keep going till it bottoms out. Right, so after punching out that bad piece of porcelain, or pushing it down out of the way, you can see how far it pushed it. It's left some debris on the end here. And so before I continue, you can see all this cracked porcelain. I'm going to go ahead and use my special copper pipe blow wand and blow out the entire spark plug hole and the cylinder. Well, not the cylinder yet, but I'll blow out the spark plug hole and then the cylinder once it's all extracted. Okay, this is what I got out of 6. And you can see where the porcelain's been pushed down, but then the electrode is also broken off. So there's going to be more debris inside that cylinder. So I'm going to have to be extra special cautious about cleaning out cylinder 6 and most likely cylinder 8, because that's the next one. But I'm pretty happy that this came out. Only got one more to go and we're good to go. Okay. There is the press after cylinder 8. Looks like I got a pretty good press of the porcelain. Okay, so now I'm going to put in the sleeve and the extractor and hope for it. Well, there it is. Number 8 came out. The little electrode at the end is broken. It doesn't look like the piece is missing like it was in 6, but you can see where my throttle cleaner didn't really get to this stuff right here, so that's why it's stuck. But it's out, so now I can consider this job at we've reached the summit. So now it's going to be cleaning out those the cylinders, making sure I'm going to take the endoscope, look in each one, make sure there's no debris in there, clear it out if there is. If I might go into 6 with a magnet and see if I can recover the little piece of electrode and prepare everything to install my Chinese spark plugs. So, engine dancer spark plugs. Ah, man. Let's hope it isn't the jitterbug. And these are the coils, of course. It's a set made in China. And they talk a lot about problems in these. Anyway, why no name? Well, I guess they are from Carbole. Okay, I think we're all back together, and I'm about to give her her first startup in, geez, it's been almost 2 weeks. I did put some of this nickel anti-seize on the plugs so they wouldn't hopefully seize up and come out easier for the next guy, which is probably going to be me. Well, how bad can it be? All right. Ooh. Well, showing all zeros. All right. So I've added to my arsenal, in addition to my scan tool, I have now downloaded a program into my throwaway laptop here. And I think it's called Forescan. And I know it sounds like something Elon Musk would name. But it is actually for scanning Ford engines. And once we get this thing started up, assuming it's going to even start after all these Chinese parts, I'll be able to hook up my laptop, hopefully, and see much more precisely what's happening with the engine. Okay, so here we go. Okay, and started. Fast idling. It's going to have to learn all of its new settings. So I'm going to let it idle. Probably 10 minutes, 15 minutes. seems to be running pretty smooth. I mean, it's only been a minute, but all right, I just took her for about a 5-mile drive. My epic piecemeal taillights. 5-mile drive. It ran really good, surprisingly good. It took all different throttle inputs and ran smooth. It could go full throttle, no problem. Half throttle climbing a hill, no problem. No dancing around. So the engine dancers have my engine doing a nice smooth dance, thankfully. I'm going to hook up my laptop and scan this engine while it's running and see exactly what's happening with my Chinese gear, but that will have to be in another video. I'm going to call this one fixed. It finally runs good. I would feel totally comfortable giving my beautiful wife Shannon the keys to this truck, if it had a bed on it, and letting her take it to the hardware store and not worrying about it one bit. It's running that good. Thanks for watching.